Thanks for joining us today as part of Vancouver Startup Week. We're thrilled to have a 30-minute window with you. We know you're all pretty busy, but so thank you for making the time for this. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the SFU Venture Labs team is grateful to work on the unceded territorial lands of the Coast Salish peoples of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We do have a fantastic panel here today with two of my colleagues from VentureLabs joining, as well as the CEO of ThisFish, Enno Tamm, and his company is in the running for the top 10 in New Venture BC's competition. Winners will be announced this Thursday. I will let them introduce themselves in just a minute. I am Alison Berg. I'll be moderating today's session, and I'm an EIR, or an executive in residence at SFU Venture Labs. We're one of Canada's leading accelerators for startups developing new tech. We help tech, science, and innovation companies bring their solutions to market through mentorship, access to industry leaders, and programming. And we're going to dig into one of those programs a little later in the session today. We'd also like to thank Innovate BC for supporting funding for VentureLabs in rolling out the Technology Resiliency Program. Now, if you've come for a really deep dive into digital marketing, I'm sorry, we only have 30 minutes. But do reach out to any of us on the call or VentureLabs in general. We can get you support as a client, or we work with some amazing digital marketing organizations here in Vancouver. In a nutshell, digital marketing is really about reaching your target audience through electronic devices or the internet. Now, we don't often think of certain things like TV, radio, and electronic billboards as digital marketing, but they were first generation. Phone used to be landline, and now that we've got the crossover into smartphones, and so we're starting to see online marketing using those tools as well. But right now, most people think of digital marketing as how do we reach our audiences online. And there's a variety of mechanisms that folks are using to reach their audience, and they often relate to each other, and it's critical that you put together the right mix. I've seen it evolve from like the olden days where you paid for a banner ad and you just hoped it showed up in the right places, to today where you have the ability to target like a 50-year-old woman like myself, like who likes chocolate and wine and shoes, on Facebook at 7 p.m. So the specificness of what you can do now with digital marketing is quite mind-blowing and a wee bit creepy at times. I'll briefly touch on each of these, and then we'll get into our panel very shortly. SEO is how do you get found organically through search online. There is some speculation that SEO will go away in the next 3 to 5 years because Google's tired of people trying to figure out their algorithms. Content marketing tends to be a fairly affordable way of doing some digital marketing. It's enormous growth in the last 5 to 10 years. And if you're producing great content, you tend to be doing better in SEO as well. Search engine marketing is paying for your ads to show up high in Google in front of your specific audience. Pay-per-click advertising is pretty much of an offshoot now of search engine marketing, but you can pay to put online ads in spots where you know your audience visits that aren't search engines. Social media, everyone does it, whether it's you're placing strategic ads or it's just promotion of your content in your own channels to help with SEO or to share great content you have, and engaging in meaningful dialogue with your community online. Affiliate marketing is not something I've really done a lot of in my career. It's the process of earning a commission by promoting other people's or companies' products on your site. Now, email marketing, it's old, but it's still used and very, very successfully. Many marketers still rank it as the #1 way to get in front of their audience. Okay, now, we partner with Rocket Builders, which each year accepts applications for hundreds of companies across BC to be considered as a ready-to-rocket company, those with growth potential. And we've seen it over and over again with different studies and working with different accelerators and different startups, that barely above half of startups actually invest in a marketing function. Earlier stage companies, only 40% engage in marketing. And in some sectors like digital health and ag tech, only 32% or have someone who's actually taking care of a marketing role. Yet there's a conundrum there. every year, thousands of tech startups and products fail. So with rare exceptions, companies that fail to take marketing and the needs of their customers into account will struggle. So at VentureLabs, we started a project this year, and we know that many startups don't have budget in the early days, especially for a senior role. But chances are, if you're with an accelerator or you're part of the BC startup scene, you may be able to afford a bit of a senior mentor's time to work with a less experienced marketing person to achieve great results. So at VentureLabs, we recognized the need to build capacity in marketing skills across all of our supported companies. So we ran this pilot project where we partnered some senior mentors with marketing students or those people very early in their career in marketing to work with the clients on a variety of marketing services for those companies. And we hope it provided the students meaningful mentor experience and great work experience. And we believe our companies got access to high-level marketing mentorship at a very good rate because they're clients, and additional capacity to take on a marketing project, as well as experience working in an agency type arrangement. And at this point, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves with a very brief bio. And I'm going to turn off the slides, and then I'm just going to ask the panelists some questions, and hopefully you guys can pop some questions into the chat. Maybe Eric, you could give us an intro to yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Eric Enno Tamm, the co-founder and CEO of ThisFish. So I'm actually born and raised in Ucluelet on Vancouver Island. So I grew up in a fishing family that goes back many generations, even all the way back to Newfoundland in the 1920s. So I'm now the CEO of a company that's really building digital solutions for production, quality control, and traceability in the global seafood industry.
Awesome. Okay. Welcome, Pauline.
Thanks.
Oh, you're on mute, Pauline. The line of 2020.
Sorry, I know I have. There's construction going on outside, so I was trying to keep it on mute in between our chats. But I'm the marketing communications and event coordinator at SFU Venture Labs. So currently, a lot of what I do is take care of the daily marketing duties, as well as project managing our startup client projects and executing those projects as part of the marketing as a service program. In the past few years, I've been working in the entrepreneurship space, working with startups, incubators, and accelerators, doing all sorts of marketing. But my specialty really lies in writing and content strategy, which has really been helpful for the startup clients that we've worked with as part of marketing as a service.
Great. Thanks, Pauline. And Fiona, our newest member of the team.
Hi, I'm the marketing associate at VentureLabs. So what I do is I support client companies on marketing projects, and that I do collateral development, design, research, social media, and web traffic analysis. And I recently graduated from SFU, so this has been a great experience for me so far.
Great, fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna maybe just launch into a bit of questions. So Eric, you mentioned a little bit about your company. What's happening right now for you? Like in terms of, you mentioned you were in Ecuador recently. So where are you at with your business right now, and then how are you marketing?
Yeah. So I can tell you a little bit more about the company. So we're, in terms of digitizing the global supply chain, we really identified at seafood manufacturers, seafood processors is kind of key in the global supply chain. So we built some solutions, digital solutions for that particular market. So we're really focused on food manufacturing in the seafood industry, and primarily in the big commodity markets. And for instance, tuna is one of the areas that we're focusing on. And there's not a lot of tuna fishing in Canada, actually, not even a lot of tuna fishing in the United States. Most of that market is in Southeast Asia in terms of the producer regions, and Latin America. So, for our company, we've been focused a lot on Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, and also Latin America, Ecuador, and Peru, and have built out staff there. Of course, that was before the pandemic. That's still our strategy. But it's increasingly being, it's challenging traveling internationally. I mean, I just came back from 5 weeks in Peru, I'm now in quarantine for 2 weeks. It's, you know, it's a pain in the ass, but it's needed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to quarantine. I volunteered to leave the country, so it's what you need to do. But I recognize that we now need to, and also just the stage of where the company's at. We're an enterprise sale. We're charging anywhere between 5 to 50, 60,000 US for the installation of our software. So it's very much a relationship. It's kind of a hand sale. Most of our marketing has been outbound. But I recognize that as we grow, as we build really lighthouse clients, build up those great case studies, we sort of have to cross the chasm or chasm, however you pronounce it, into the mainstream, and that often will mean that we need to now have a lot more inbound marketing.
Right.
So the pandemic just made that really clear that we need to do more on marketing and build out our brand and start to build that kind of inbound sales traffic.
Okay. So when we came to you and said, hey, we're rolling out this marketing as a service pilot project. Now, there are some people who do not want to be involved in pilot projects, and you may have experienced that as a startup. There's often bumps. Why did you decide to participate?
Yeah, I mean, my first, interaction with SFU Venture Labs was actually through the Rocket Builders program, which was maybe about 2-3 years ago, which was a great program. We're also a member of SFU Venture Labs, so I've been to a lot of workshops and lectures. It's always been incredibly high quality, so I just kind of expected that it would be a good program just because of my past experience.
Okay, and what projects did the team take on for you?
Yeah, so we because we have a very niche market and we're really kind of global leaders in the industry, I really felt that a better content marketing strategy for us was really key. We also have a complex sale. We're selling into companies. We have to convince the company president, sometimes the CFO, the IT department, production and quality control. So for us, I felt that a content marketing strategy would be key to engage all of these players in the decision-making unit, for our sales. So that's what we worked on, is basically a content marketing strategy revolving around a monthly e-newsletter, but also the content can be put out onto blogs and into our social media.
Okay. Now, Pauline, could you tell us, from your experience, and I know you're a writer, what is content marketing and why is it a viable strategy for a startup?
Sure. Yeah. Content marketing is essentially a plan that utilizes content to achieve your business goals and marketing goals. And content, in this sense, is kind of like its definition has broadened, and now it's this catch-all term that kind of creators hate, that wraps in text and media, with things like video and blog posts and white papers and ebooks, and all those sorts of things can be used as tactics to generate leads, raise your brand awareness, and those sorts of things. And a repository that we built for Eric was essentially a centralized place for all of our content ideas to live, so that if ever in the future, if you want to repurpose or go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, what can we create, what can we put out there, he had one place to go to. And the best thing about content strategy, it is really affordable and reliable. I mean, it is a long-term game, whereas it's not an instantaneous, not like an ad where if someone just clicks on it, you'll get a sale immediately. But it really does help to build your brand identity and position yourself in a certain way. So with ThisFish, part of our goal was to also position ThisFish as a thought leader in the space. So a lot of our ideas pointed to that, and we made sure we build an e-newsletter that would support that and would drive that message home every single time. And for a budget-strapped company, I would definitely consider content marketing as part of that mix, along with SEO and social media and thinking about all of those different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I'd love to add on the content piece is, as a startup, make sure every piece of content you develop does multiple purposes. So that, that one ebook could turn into 3 or 4 blog posts, that could turn into your social media pushes. That interview you conduct with someone should be showing up in multiple places. Like, I've been at 3 to 5 startups in my life, and you need that one piece to do like triple work for you.
Totally.
To get the most bang for your buck on that one.
Exactly. Like one piece, you could, or even if you just start out with 5 pieces, you could have content for, the next year or so.
Yeah. Now, Pauline, I know many of the companies came in, and they came in with projects that really they could have taken a team of 5 a full year to develop. So can you maybe walk us through a little bit of the process you used to scope, like with the teams?
Sure, yeah. So a lot of the projects, they were either really broad or very specific. And what we did is we had to really peel back the layers and understand, okay, so what's the priority here? And is everything else set in place to allow us to succeed with this project? So for example, someone would come to us and ask for maybe a brochure or maybe, like a content plan, but we had to look at how can we make sure that this is contained and something that we can deliver in the next 2 months, something that our students can excel at and execute. And so we took a look at, okay, is there messaging there? Is there audience there? Do we have all those? Is the brand identity clear? And so that's kind of where the senior mentors came in. And that's how we scoped the project is, okay, let's piece this out, break it down, whereas this deliverable is something that we can contain and execute. And then the senior mentor would provide kind of that questioning and that insight and the strategic vision. And that made it really easy for us to work quickly because, being able to have that knowledge and that expertise to provide that, questioning of, okay, are we really speaking to our audience? Is this really in line with what we want to do and achieve our goals? That made it easier for the students to accomplish their goals once we brought in that framework and help them to kind of hit the ground running.
Okay, great. Thanks, Fiona. So Fiona, like as the early person in your career in marketing, so what types of projects did you get to work on? I know they're varied, and walk us through maybe some of the deliverables and how you got there.
I got to work on some very interesting projects with very unique companies, one of which was creating a company newsletter template to help keep them in touch with their clients and establish a trustworthy presence in the capital raising industry. How we did that was the team first consolidated all of the possible content pieces that we could use in a content repository. And then from there, we mapped out a communication framework that could effectively and clearly deliver those content pieces to the receivers of the newsletter. And then from there, we moved on to design, which was a really fun process. I first created drafts of just design ideas, very basic, and shared those with the team for their feedback and suggestions on how to proceed. And once I received the feedback from the senior mentors, I would incorporate them into the next design iteration and just repeat that process. It was very satisfying to see that with every feedback iteration, the design began to look more and more like what we had envisioned, which was a clean and on-brand newsletter that presents its messaging in a very clear way. And now we have a newsletter that I'm very proud of. Another project that I worked on was creating brochures that the company can then use to promote their services to their clients. The working process was very similar, where we would first start with narrowing in on the key messaging and communication strategy. Once we had a strategy for the key messages that the company wants to convey, we can work from that guideline to start creating copy and design for the brochure. The process is very similar in that I would start with a draft of just our ideas, and then the team would provide feedback, which helps give me direction on developing the next iteration until finally we have a very polished brochure that's very ready to be published. And yeah, those are some of the projects I got to work on.
Okay, so So, Pauline, I'm wondering if you can comment a little about the model of a senior mentor and then utilizing students and people early in their careers as a way of like rolling out services.
Sure. I think I kind of touched on it earlier as well, but yeah, what we did was we like you touched on earlier too, we didn't want to throw in a student and just say, hey, good luck and see like how you do. And especially if someone early in their career too, we wanted to provide that guidance and also some quality checking and knowledge. And where the senior mentors really helped was in that messaging piece and in really understanding the target audience. And with them being able to provide that kind of information, it really, again, helped the students kind of launch and continue with their projects. So it really helped with having multiple people on board because we could really tap into different types of expertise and different types of skill sets with the design skills and the writing skills from the student and have that align with kind of the overall goal and vision of this project fitting in with the business plan, because we really wanted something. We didn't want to just like make a newsletter and kind of have that as the only deliverable or tangible deliverable at the end of the day. We wanted something to be sustainable that, you know, Eric could continue past the project. So we made sure that we also set up like the foundation for him to continue if he wanted to hire on a digital marketing person or execute these things on his own. He would have the tools and resources to do that. So having that blend of both senior mentors and the student working together made sure that we could hand him something and then also have him set up for success with his marketing strategy.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough the dread that I hear when I hear a tech engineer, let's just get a marketing co-op to do it. Like, you would never dream of letting like a junior engineer loosen your code. So why would you do that? Why would you bring in a marketing person without someone senior to support them? Eric, we're close on time already. I cannot believe how fast this goes. Going forward, what's next on your marketing roadmap as you grow ThisFish? I'm going to bring up a slide again, but perhaps you can address that while I bring that up.
Sure. Yeah. So you know, for us, well, one thing I really liked about the work that was done is we had recently kind of refined our marketing messages, building kind of a benefits ladder. And what we really did with the newsletter is kind of reinforce all those components, those messages, the key benefit driver, et cetera. And then, you know, they built a number of templates and, you know, editorial calendars that are going to be very helpful for me. I'm lucky, actually. I'm formerly a journalist and an author, so I've got probably an edge on most people in terms of building out good content. And the other thing for us too is our software really kind of digitizes the industry. So, you know, we are sitting on very large volumes of data, and now we are just starting to launch a pretty serious AI and machine learning strategy with the company. And again, that's just going to help us kind of become the industry leader, the thought leader in this space. So these marketing tools are going to be extremely valuable to us because, I mean, our company is likely going to be, for a lot of companies in the seafood industry, our company is going to be the company that takes them on the AI journey. We're going to be the ones, you know, pioneering AI in this industry. So how we communicate to the industry and make AI acceptable to the industry and friendly, because a lot of people are fearful of AI. So, you know, this is kind of our next big step with our marketing, and we've got some components in place to kind of build a framework of how we communicate and message AI
it's just so exciting. Like, you guys are on such an interesting trajectory. Yeah, it's very cool. Now, given like where you've come from, if like, so the people in the audience, if they're thinking about starting a business or in their early stages of their startup, and knowing that money is always tight in the early days of a company, what three marketing activities do you think like any startup should be considering in their early days?
Yeah, so speaking of money, the first thing you need to do is start to market yourself to investors. So I've actually had an investor newsletter from day one. I put it out between 10 to 12 times a year. Extremely important. I mean, you want we have about a dozen investors, but I have about 120 people on our investor mailing list. I'm pretty transparent with them about the state of our company. That's incredibly important, I believe, because I'm taking these investors on a journey, and when next year when I go out for an ask to the investors, many of them will be along the journey with us, have built up trust, and getting money from investors is ultimately about building trust with them. So definitely communication, newsletters with investors very early. Second thing I would say is scale your marketing according to like what your needs are. Like, it would have been easy for us to take a off-the-shelf marketing plan and do click-through ads, but that doesn't really work with our business strategy. So you really have to scale your marketing. So we didn't do much inbound because the whole nature of our business, the relationship was outbound. But I knew that there'd be a turning point. So we kind of are putting in place the strategy for that turning point that we need to start building inbound. So kind of you have to be a little bit you have to be one step ahead, I think, especially when you're growing a startup and you're growing quite quickly. So those are two things that I would definitely focus on. The only other thing I would say is, like, we're in an international business. There's a lot of Canadian government help for businesses trying to market internationally, specifically can export. I think 75% of trade shows, and they even will start to now fund online marketing. So if you do have a B2C business and you want to do online marketing in a foreign market, there's some monies there. So definitely take a look at things like can export. I mean, it can be very valuable for
tips, like really very
penetrating
helpful.
foreign markets.
We're down to about 2 minutes. I'm just gonna. I want to thank everybody for giving us their time, the audience and our panelists. A wealth of knowledge up there, and appreciate so much of the good insights. Going forward, VentureLabs is also running another session in about 30 minutes, customer discovery and rediscovery, with our operations director, Leslie Duncan, who is a wealth of knowledge on how do you get insights out of your customers so to refine your product vision. On Thursday, as I mentioned earlier, it's the New Ventures BC Competition Awards, where we certainly hope we see Eric at the top. Next week, we've got our first session of market validation, and this is where early stage companies can validate their idea, value prop pro formas, their target market, what's the value chain. So if that sounds at all interesting, we maybe have 1 or 2 spots left. It's about a 3 to 6 week process where we work through good content with you, and you're partnered with a mentor. We've also got a workshop on incorporation and getting started. And then October 7th is VanTech Angel Network's monthly meeting. And on that note, I would like to thank you again for coming. And if you've got questions at all about how to scale your tech business, the team would love to chat with you at VentureLabs. Take care. Thanks, everyone.